The world's most important waterway is being challenged. Every day, thousands of ships cross the oceans, carrying food, technology, fuel, the things that keep modern civilization alive. But there is one narrow passage where a few dozen kilometers of water can influence the entire planet. A place so small that you could cross it in minutes, yet so important that a single crisis here could shake energy markets, raise shipping costs, and affect billions of people around the world. This place is the Strait of Hormuz. For generations, countries fought to control it. Navies protected it. Governments feared it. Because whoever depends on Hormuz also depends on its stability. But now, something unusual is happening. The countries that rely on this waterway the most are spending billions trying to escape it. Saudi Arabia is building new energy routes. The UAE is creating ports beyond the strait. India and Europe are designing new trade corridors. The goal is not to destroy Hormuz. The goal is something much more surprising: to make the world need it less. But here is the impossible question. Can you really replace a piece of geography that shaped global trade for centuries? Or are these countries about to discover that some places on Earth are simply too important to escape? Before understanding how countries want to escape Hormuz, you first have to understand why it became impossible to ignore. Look at the map. The Strait of Hormuz appears almost insignificant, a narrow channel between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. It is not the largest sea route. It is not the longest. It is not even the busiest shipping lane on Earth. But it has something more powerful: location. Because behind this small passage lies one of the richest energy regions in human history, the Persian Gulf. For decades, this region became the heart of global energy production, and Hormuz became the gateway. Every day, massive tankers carry oil and natural gas. And this created a unique problem. Hormuz became valuable because the world needed it. But that same dependence made it vulnerable. Whenever tensions rise, the world watches. Not because Hormuz always closes, but because everyone knows what could happen if it did. Insurance prices increase. Markets react. Governments prepare. Because global trade has learned one painful lesson: a route does not need to disappear to create chaos. Sometimes, the fear of losing it is powerful enough. And that is why, for decades, the main strategy was simple: protect Hormuz. But now, a new idea is emerging. What if the world doesn't protect the choke point? What if it simply needs it less? For decades, countries believed they had only one option: protect the Strait of Hormuz, build stronger defenses, increase military presence, make sure the world's most important energy route could never be interrupted. But eventually, a different question appeared. What if the problem was not protecting Hormuz? What if the solution was avoiding it? That idea first became serious among the countries that depended on the strait the most. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporters, understood the danger better than almost anyone, because its biggest oil fields are located in the east of the country, exactly where the Persian Gulf begins. For decades, that meant a simple reality. A large part of Saudi energy exports had one natural path, through Hormuz. But Saudi Arabia wanted another option. Not because it expected Hormuz to disappear, but because no country wants its economy to depend completely on a single narrow passage. So it built something extraordinary, a pipeline network stretching across the Arabian Peninsula. Instead of sending every barrel east toward Hormuz, some oil could travel west across the country and reach global markets through ports on the Red Sea. A different coastline, a different route, a backup plan. Then, the United Arab Emirates began pursuing its own solution. But its advantage was geography, because the UAE had something rare, a coastline outside the strait, Fujairah, unlike Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which face the Persian Gulf. Fujairah sits on the Gulf of Oman, meaning ships can reach it without passing through Hormuz. So the UAE began investing in pipelines, storage facilities, and port infrastructure, creating another gateway for energy and trade. At first glance, these projects seem like they are defeating geography, but they are not. They are doing something more realistic. They are reducing dependence, because the goal was never destroy Hormuz. The goal was make Hormuz less powerful. And that distinction changes everything. Because replacing a choke point doesn't happen with one project. It happens when enough alternatives exist that one route no longer controls the entire system. But there was a problem. Oil was only one part of the story. The modern world does not run only on energy. It runs on containers, cars, food, raw materials, everything that connects the global economy. And most of those things still move by sea, which created a much bigger challenge. A pipeline can move oil around Hormuz, but can an entire global trade network be moved around it? Because replacing Hormuz was never just about finding another route. It was about replacing an entire system built around one of the world's most important waterways. And that was a much harder problem. Most people imagine geopolitical competition as something loud: military bases, warships, border conflicts. But one of the most important struggles of the 21st century is happening quietly. No explosions, no armies, just ports, railways, and shipping containers. Because countries around the world are trying to redraw the map of global trade. The reason is simple. Modern civilization depends on movement, energy, goods, raw materials, technology. Everything must travel. And for decades, the world relied on a few critical pathways, a handful of narrow passages carrying enormous amounts of global commerce. The Strait of Hormuz, the Suez Canal, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. These places became powerful because they connected distant economies, but they also created a weakness. When too much of the world depends on a few routes, those routes become pressure points. So governments began searching for alternatives, not necessarily because the old routes failed, but because the future belongs to those with more than one option. One of the biggest ideas is creating new trade corridors, connecting Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. The concept is simple. A container that once traveled only by sea could take a different journey, arrive at a port, move by railway, cross countries, reach another port, and continue toward its final destination. On paper, it sounds revolutionary. A new map of global commerce. A world where one disruption doesn't stop everything. And this idea is spreading. Countries are investing in logistics hubs, building deeper ports, expanding rail networks, creating connections between regions that were once separated. Because today, a country gains power not only by controlling resources, but by controlling connections. The ability to move things can be just as valuable as owning the things themselves. But there is a hidden problem. A trade corridor is not created by drawing a line on a map. A railway, a continent, is more than steel and concrete. It requires cooperation, political stability, security, compatible regulations, and trust between countries. Because every border creates another challenge. Every transfer creates another delay. Every new connection creates another point where something can go wrong. And global trade does not reward ideas. It rewards reliability. Companies do not choose a route because it looks impressive. They choose it because it works every day for years without interruption. And that is the advantage Hormuz has. It is not just a location. It is a system built over generations. The ships already exist. The ports already operate. The companies already understand the route. The world already knows how to use it. The alternatives are still trying to prove that they can complete. And this creates the biggest challenge of all. Building another route is possible, but building one that the world actually chooses is much harder. Because in global trade, the best route is not always the newest. It is the one that makes the most economic sense. When people talk about replacing the Strait of Hormuz, they usually imagine an engineering challenge. Build a new port, lay new railway tracks, construct new pipelines, connect the world through another route. But the hardest part is not building the infrastructure. It is convincing the world to use it. Because global trade follows one rule above all others: efficiency. A route can be politically attractive. It can be strategically important. It can even be safer. But if it costs more, takes longer, or creates more uncertainty, companies will think twice. And this is where Hormuz has a powerful advantage. Not because it is perfect, but because it is efficient. The ocean is humanity's greatest transportation network. A single massive container ship can carry thousands of containers across entire oceans. One vessel, one journey, one continuous movement. No changing trains, no crossing multiple borders, no unloading and reloading every few hundred kilometers. Just the ship moving across the sea. Now compare that with a land-based alternative. A container arrives at a port. It must be unloaded, transferred to a railway, moved across countries, checked at borders, transferred again, loaded onto another ship. Every additional step creates another cost, another delay, another opportunity for disruption. And when global companies move millions of containers every year, even a small increase in cost can become billions of dollars. This is the invisible advantage of geography. The Strait of Hormuz is not powerful only because of where it is. It is powerful because an entire economic machine has grown around it. Refineries, storage facilities, shipping companies, insurance networks, decades of experience. Replacing Hormuz means competing, not against a narrow passage of water, but against a system that has been optimized for generations. And this is why history is full of examples where humans tried to defeat geography. Sometimes they succeeded, but usually they adapted. The Silk Road once connected civilizations across continents. Then maritime trade changed the center of global commerce. The Cape of Good Hope once shaped the movement of ships. Then new technologies changed the map. The Suez Canal transformed global shipping, not because it destroyed geography, but because it changed how geography was used. And that may be the real future of Hormuz, not disappearing, not becoming irrelevant overnight, but slowly losing its monopoly. Because the greatest power of any choke point does not come from the water itself. It comes from dependence. A bridge is powerful because everyone needs to cross it. A highway matters because there are few alternatives. A shipping lane matters because the world has built itself around it. So the real battle is not against Hormuz. It is against dependence. And that changes the entire story. Because maybe the future is not about replacing the strait. Maybe it is about creating a world where no single strait can hold the entire global economy in its hands. For most of human history, geography was destiny. The location of a river could create an empire. A mountain range could protect a civilization. A narrow passage could decide the fate of nations. Because before modern technology, humans could only move through the paths the planet allowed. And that gave certain places extraordinary power. The Strait of Hormuz is one of those places. A small piece of geography with influence far beyond its size. But history reveals something fascinating. No route stays dominant forever. Not because geography becomes meaningless, but because humans constantly find new ways to adapt to it. Centuries ago, the Silk Road was the center of global connection. It linked China to Central Asia, to the Middle East, to Europe. Merchants carried silk, spices, precious goods, and ideas. Control those routes, and you controlled a major part of the world economy. But then, something changed. Ships became more powerful. Ocean trade expanded, and the center of global commerce moved. The Silk Road did not disappear overnight. It slowly lost its monopoly. A similar transformation happened with maritime routes. For centuries, ships traveling between Europe and Asia had to sail around Africa. Then the Suez Canal opened. A man-made waterway changed the value of entire oceans. A piece of infrastructure changed the world moved. The lesson was clear. Geography matters. But geography is not frozen. Technology, investment, and human decisions can change how valuable a place becomes. And this is exactly what is happening with Hormuz. Nobody is trying to move the strait. That is impossible. Nobody is trying to erase its location. Instead, countries are trying to change something more important. They are trying to change how much the world depends on it. Because the true power of a choke point does not come from being unavoidable. It comes from being necessary. A bridge has power because everyone needs to cross it. A port has power because everyone needs to use it. A strait has power because everyone has built their economy around it. But once alternatives appear, even imperfect ones, the balance begins to shift. This is why the race around Hormuz matters. The goal is not to create a perfect replacement. The goal is to create enough alternatives that one disruption cannot shake the entire system. And that is how great routes change throughout history. Not with one dramatic moment, not with a final battle, but through thousands of small decisions. A company choosing a different port, a government funding a new railway, an investor supporting a new corridor. Slowly, the world begins to move differently. But this creates a deeper question. If replacing Hormuz is so difficult, if alternatives are expensive, and if geography still favors the strait, why are countries still spending billions trying to build a way around it? Is not only about trade. It is about something even more powerful: fear. Because in global economics, the most dangerous thing is not always a high cost. Sometimes it is uncertainty. If replacing Hormuz is so difficult, if ships are still the cheapest way to move goods, and if geography still favors the strait, then why are countries spending billions trying to build alternatives? Because they are not buying efficiency. They are buying something else: security. In global trade, the biggest danger is not always paying more. Sometimes the biggest danger is losing the ability to move at all. A country can survive higher costs. It can survive longer routes. It can survive temporary delays. But a complete disruption can damage an entire economy. Factories can stop. Energy prices can rise. Supply chains can break. And suddenly, a problem in one narrow passage becomes a problem for the entire world. That is why governments think differently from companies. A company asks, which route is the cheapest? A government asks, what happens if this route stops working? And that second question changes everything. Because history has shown that choke points are powerful precisely because they create dependence. The more the world relies on one place, the more influence that place gains. So countries are trying to reduce that influence, not by destroying Hormuz, but by creating choices. Saudi Arabia does not need every barrel of oil to avoid the strait. It only needs enough alternatives to keep exporting during a crisis. The UAE does not need every ship to bypass Hormuz. It only needs another gateway that can keep trade moving when uncertainty rises. And this idea goes beyond the Middle East. Around the world, countries are reconsidering supply chains. After years of focusing on maximum efficiency, many are now focusing on resilience, because the cheapest system is not always the safest system, and the safest system is rarely the cheapest. This is the new reality of global trade. For decades, the world optimized for speed, lower costs, just-in-time production, long supply chains stretching across continents. It created enormous economic growth, but it also created hidden weaknesses. Every crisis exposed another vulnerability: a blocked route, a political conflict, a supply shortage, a disruption thousands of kilometers away that suddenly affected ordinary people. And this changed the way governments think. The future may not belong to the countries that control the only route. It may belong to the countries that have multiple routes, because options create power. A country with one gateway has a weakness. A country with 5 gateways has flexibility. And flexibility is becoming one of the most valuable resources in the modern economy. But there is a difficult trade-off. More security means more cost. More alternatives mean more complexity. More routes mean more infrastructure and more investment. So the final question becomes, will the world accept paying more for a trade system that is harder to break? Or will economics eventually pull everyone back to the same old roots? Because in the end, global trade is always a battle between two forces: the need for efficiency and the need for security. And the Strait of Hormuz sits exactly in the middle of that battle. Every country wants the same thing: to be secure, to be independent, to know that its economy can survive, even when the world becomes unstable. But independence has a cost, and the race to reduce dependence on Hormuz reveals one of the biggest challenges in modern trade. Because building an alternative route is not just about construction. It is about creating an entire system. A new port needs more than a coastline. It needs warehouses, rail connections, industrial zones, skilled workers, reliable laws, international companies willing to use it, A railway needs more than tracks. It needs cooperation between countries, compatible systems, stable borders, long-term political trust. And that may be the hardest part. Because infrastructure can be built, but confidence must be earned. A company deciding where to move billions of dollars of cargo does not only look at a map, it looks at decades of reliability. Will the route stay open? Will regulations change? Will governments cooperate? Will the investment still make sense 10 years from now? These questions determine the future of trade, and this creates a difficult reality. The world wants supply chains that are cheap, fast, and secure. But those three goals rarely come together. The cheapest route may not be the safest. The safest route may not be the fastest. And the fastest route may not always be available. For decades, global trade chose efficiency. Companies built enormous supply networks. Manufacturing spread across continents. Goods became cheaper. The world became more connected than ever before. But every crisis revealed the same weakness. A system designed for maximum efficiency could become fragile. That is why alternatives to Hormuz matter. Not because they will replace it tomorrow, but because they create options. And options change power. A country that depends on one road must accept whatever happens on that road. A country with multiple roads has choices, and choices create independence. But there is an irony. The more alternatives the world builds, the less likely any single route becomes dominant. Yet building those alternatives requires the very thing global trade tries to avoid: extra cost, extra complexity, extra time. So the future of Hormuz may not be decided by whether another route can be built. It may be decided by whether the world believes the price of independence is worth paying. Because in the end, the greatest power of a choke point is not the ability to block ships. It is the ability to make the world worry about what happens if it does, and if countries succeed in creating enough alternatives. That fear begins to disappear. Not overnight, not completely, but slowly. One pipeline, one port, one railway, at a time. Can anyone really replace the Strait of Hormuz? After all the pipelines, all the ports, all the railways, and all the billions invested, the answer is more complicated than a simple yes or no. Because Hormuz is not powerful only because of the water between its shores. It is powerful because of everything built around it. For generations, created an enormous system. Energy producers, refineries, storage facilities, trade networks, financial markets, all connected to one narrow passage. Replacing that would mean replacing more than geography. It would mean replacing history. And history is not easy to rebuild. But something important has already changed. For the first time in modern history, the world is no longer asking, how do we protect Hormuz forever? It is asking, how do we make sure we can survive without depending on it? That is a completely different question. Because the future of Hormuz will probably not be decided by one war, or one pipeline, or one massive infrastructure project. It will be decided by thousands of smaller choices. A company choosing a different port, a government funding a new corridor, an investor supporting a connection, a country creating one more option for a world that has relied on too few. And maybe that is how the greatest trade routes in history really change. Not with a dramatic ending, not with a final moment when everything disappears, but quietly, as the world begins to move around them. The Silk Road did not vanish overnight. It simply stopped being the only way. The same thing may happen to Hormuz. It may remain one of the most important waterways on Earth. Ships will continue crossing it. Energy will continue flowing through it. But its greatest power, its ability to make the world dependent, may slowly begin to decline. And perhaps that is the biggest transformation of all. For centuries, nations fought to control the world's choke points. They built fleets. They built alliances. They built strategies around narrow passages that could decide the fate of economies. But the next era may belong to those who do not need to control the only path, because the ultimate advantage is not owning the bridge. It is having another way across. So, can anyone really replace the Strait of Hormuz? Maybe not. But perhaps that was never the real goal. The real goal was to create a world where no single stretch of water could decide the future of everyone else. And that may be the most powerful idea of all. Because geography shapes history, but human choices can reshape geography. Next documentary, the 17 trillion corridor that could change the world.